I searched for a place to sit. The alien princess grabbed my wrist and commanded, "Sit beside me." Ethan stepped off the shuttle and onto the smooth, shimmering surface of the alien plaza. The city stretched endlessly in every direction, a maze of towers and walkways made of materials he had never seen before. The colors seemed almost alive, flowing and shifting with the light of the twin suns above. He paused for a moment, letting the strange beauty of the place sink in. The air smelled different, sweet and metallic at the same time, and his ears picked up the hum of hundreds of conversations in languages he could not understand. He had been sent to this system as part of a human exploration team, tasked with documenting alien architecture and culture. The mission had been routine until now, but stepping onto the plaza made him realize just how far from home he truly was. Every being around him was unlike anything he had encountered before. Some walked on multiple limbs, others floated slightly above the ground, and all of them moved with a grace that was almost intimidating. Ethan felt small, insignificant, and strangely exposed. His first thought was simple: find a place to sit. The day had been long, and the gravity, though similar to Earth's, made every step feel heavier when combined with the constant motion of the crowd. He looked around, but the plaza was crowded, and there was no bench or ledge in sight. People or beings moved with purpose here, weaving through the space as if guided by an invisible rhythm. Hesitant, he shuffled along the edges, hoping to find a quiet corner. Then, almost without realizing it, a presence brushed against him. He turned to see a figure approaching, unlike any he had seen before. She was tall, taller than most humans, with smooth, iridescent skin that shimmered like polished stone under the sunlight. Her eyes were large and luminous, reflecting the world in ways that made him momentarily dizzy. Long, elegant limbs carried her forward with a grace that seemed effortless, yet every movement had authority. Before he could react, she reached out and gently but firmly grabbed his wrist. "Sit beside me," she commanded. Her voice was melodic, not harsh, but carried a tone that brooked no argument. Ethan froze. He had expected curiosity, perhaps friendliness, but not this. Her grip was light, but there was a quiet strength in it that made resistance feel not just futile, but inappropriate. Ethan glanced around, unsure of what to do. The plaza was still busy, but no one seemed to pay them any mind. She guided him to a slightly raised platform at the center of the plaza. It looked like a public area, yet elegant, with smooth surfaces that glimmered in the light. As he sat, he realized that his human instincts were telling him to retreat, but something about her presence made him want to stay. She studied him for a moment, her eyes flicking over his face as if reading thoughts he didn't even know he had. "You are not from here," she said. It was not a question. Ethan nodded, his throat dry. "No," he admitted. "I'm from Earth." I didn't expect to meet anyone here," he said honestly. She tilted her head, studying him again. Then, with a gesture that seemed both casual and deliberate, she indicated the plaza around them. "Here, every life is watched, every action observed. Yet you move with caution and respect. That is rare." Humans were known for recklessness, for rushing where others hesitated. Yet here, in this city of the alien elite, he had somehow passed unnoticed, respected the flow without drawing attention. He couldn't explain why, but it felt good to be acknowledged in a way he had never experienced before. "You are different from the others," she said. Her eyes met his, luminous and unblinking. "You see, most beings would panic or flee or attempt to hide. But you adapt." She leaned back slightly, and Ethan noticed a delicate, intricate pattern on her skin that he had not seen before. It glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm with something he could not feel. He guessed it was some kind of communication or status indicator, but the beauty of it made him hesitate before asking. Curiosity was dangerous in this place. Manners, even more so. "You may speak," she said, almost reading his thoughts. "But choose words with care. Words carry weight here. Yet some visitors change the world simply by being here." Alien merchants sold shimmering objects that seemed to shift shape when looked at directly. Others moved through the crowd with floating carts or strange, undulating vehicles. The sounds were a mixture of tones and hums, impossible to reproduce with human instruments. Yet Ethan found himself watching it all, not with fear, but fascination. "Tell me of your world," she said suddenly, her voice pulling him from his thoughts. "Not the maps, not the histories. Tell me of the hearts of your people. We endure, even when things seem impossible." That was what humans had always relied on without really thinking about it. Their ingenuity, their persistence, their refusal to give up even when outmatched. Somehow, sitting beside this alien princess, he felt that spirit being recognized, magnified. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The plaza moved around them like a river, and Ethan began to notice details he had missed before. The subtle way the aliens communicated without words, the small gestures that carried meaning, the patterns of movement that ensured the flow never stopped. It was beautiful, but also intimidating. "I can show you more," she said suddenly. "If you are willing." He was entering a world governed by rules far more complex than he had encountered before. Yet he felt a thrill he had never known. Adventure had always been part of human life, but this was beyond anything he could have imagined. She stood gracefully and extended her hand. "Come," she said. "Sit beside me not as a stranger but as a guest. Watch, learn, and perhaps understand." Together, they walked toward a quieter area of the plaza, where platforms rose like terraces, offering views of the cityscape and the sky beyond. Ethan realized he was not just observing anymore. He was part of the flow, an unexpected participant in a civilization older and more sophisticated than humanity. As they reached the edge of a platform, Lyra gestured for him to sit once more. He did, feeling the weight of the moment settle over him. Around them, the city continued, alive and breathing. And for the first time since he had left Earth, Ethan felt that perhaps humans were not as small in the universe as they thought. Perhaps there was a place for them among the stars, a place for ingenuity, courage, and spirit. And beside him, the alien princess watched him with an expression that was neither challenging nor dismissive, but expectant, as if she had already decided that his presence mattered. Ethan swallowed, unsure of what the future held, yet certain of one thing. He had stepped into a story far greater than his own, and he was ready to see where it would lead. Ethan woke early the next day, still feeling the pulse of the city in his mind. The plaza, the platforms, the flowing light, it all seemed to linger behind his eyelids. Today, he would follow Lyra into the heart of her city. He had no idea what awaited him, but a mixture of excitement and nervousness kept him alert. Humans were explorers, yes, but nothing had prepared him for this. Lyra met him at the edge of his quarters, her tall frame casting a graceful shadow. She wore a robe that seemed to shimmer like liquid silver, and her expression held the same calm authority that had drawn him in yesterday. "Come," she said, "there is much to show you. Observation is not enough. You must understand if you wish to survive here." She returned their gestures with ease, a subtle smile, but did not explain the details. He assumed much of this was custom, a complex social code he could not yet read. "Humans," she said suddenly, glancing at him, "are unusual. You are bold enough to come to distant worlds, yet cautious in ways that seem almost unnatural here. It is refreshing." Towers rose around it like glass mountains, each reflecting the other in a fractal pattern. In the middle stood a fountain, but not one with water. Light poured from it, bending and twisting into shapes that seemed alive. Ethan stared, fascinated. The aliens gathered around it, some meditating, some exchanging silent gestures he could not understand. Lyra guided him to a raised platform overlooking the scene. "Here," she said, "is where decisions are observed and made. The council will meet soon. Watch carefully, Ethan. You may learn more in 1 hour here than you would in weeks of study elsewhere." Some communicated silently, while others spoke in tones that vibrated in the air rather than words. The city itself seemed alive, responding to its inhabitants. I see you studying everything, Lyra said. Her voice broke his concentration, yet it was not reproachful. Attention to detail is a human trait. Some call it curiosity, others call it persistence. Both are valuable. I guess I just want to understand what I see. It helps me fit in. 8 figures floated or walked onto the platform, each adorned in robes of different color and design. Their eyes glowed faintly, and their gestures communicated as much as their words would. Lyra introduced Ethan silently to each, through subtle movements and a whispered explanation only he could hear. He felt both honored and nervous. The council began their discussion about a trade agreement with a neighboring system. Words were spoken in a language Ethan could not comprehend, but the meaning was clear through gestures, tone, and light signals emitted from their bodies. He tried to follow, noting the tension that built between some members. A disagreement over resources and responsibilities was apparent. Lyra leaned toward him. "Watch the human strength," she whispered. "Sometimes it lies not in power but in perspective." Energy flared from the council members, and Ethan felt a sense of urgency he had never experienced. He remembered what Lyra had said yesterday. Observation alone was not enough. Humans often solved problems with creativity, with risk, with instinct. He focused on what he could see. One member wanted fairness, another wanted efficiency, and the third wanted safety above all. None could reconcile their demands. Ethan cleared his throat quietly. "What if," he started, hesitant at first, "you tried dividing the resources temporarily? Allocate part to each faction, monitor the results, and adjust as needed. That way, no region suffers and everyone contributes." He gestured, pointing to imaginary spaces in the air to illustrate the concept. Instead of choosing one plan or the other, combine them in a sequence. Test the outcomes. Adjust as you go. It may reduce conflict while ensuring the city continues to function. Without speaking, she transmitted his idea to the council through gestures and light signals. There was a pause. Then murmurs rippled through the members. Slowly, they began to respond, testing the idea he had suggested. One by one, the tension eased, and the council began to nod, discuss, and finally agree on a compromise. Ethan exhaled, feeling a rush of relief and pride. He had just solved a problem that could have escalated into a serious conflict, in a civilization far older and wiser than humanity. He looked at Lyra, whose expression held something like admiration. "You see," she said softly, "humans have a way of thinking that others cannot predict. Cleverness, but also spirit. You have contributed more than you know. I just suggested an idea. You all still made the final decision. You must understand the hearts of those around you." He saw disputes solved not with force but with insight, alliances built with patience, and respect earned through deeds rather than words. Each time, he noted patterns, gestures, and subtle signals that told him more about the aliens' society than any textbook ever could. At one point, they came across a group of younger aliens trying to solve a complex mechanical problem. The device pulsed and hissed, refusing to cooperate. Lyra observed silently. Ethan, remembering the council's earlier conflict, stepped forward. Using logic and trial, he suggested an approach. To his amazement, it worked. The device stabilized and the young aliens cheered, their glowing eyes shining with excitement. Lyra watched him with a faint smile. "Human ingenuity," she murmured. "It is remarkable. You do not simply act. You analyze, experiment, adapt. That is why humans survive." The twin suns were setting, casting long shadows and making the city glow in a golden hue. Ethan felt a sense of calm settle over him. He had survived the day, learned much, and had even made a small mark in an alien society. Lyra sat on the same raised platform. "Tomorrow," she said, "you will meet others who study interstellar law, history, and science. You will see more challenges, and perhaps more opportunities to demonstrate your unique perspective. That is why you are here beside me, and why the council noticed you." As the stars began to twinkle above, signaling the coming night, Ethan understood something profound. Humanity's journey among the stars was just beginning, and he, by mere chance and courage, had become part of it. Sitting beside Lyra, he felt the weight of the moment and the promise of the future. The city hummed around them, alive and eternal. And Ethan, human and small yet extraordinary in his own way, had already begun to leave a mark. The morning began with a strange tension in the city. Ethan noticed it immediately as he stepped onto the plaza with Lyra. The usual rhythm of movement, the gentle hum of voices, and the flowing light of the buildings felt tighter, faster, sharper. Something was wrong. Lyra did not speak as they walked. Her eyes scanned every corner, every gesture of the passing aliens. Ethan could feel her focus, intense and precise, as though she were reading the city itself. "Something is coming," she finally said, her voice low but firm. "You must stay close and pay attention. Today, you will see that observation and understanding are not enough. Action will be required." Ethan followed Lyra's gaze and saw it, the storm. Not a regular storm, but a massive energy phenomenon, swirling above the city like a living wall of light and wind. It crackled with power, sending pulses of energy across the plaza that made small devices flicker and hum. "The energy storm of Xylenar," Lyra said, her tone calm but carrying urgency. "Rare but dangerous. It can destabilize structures, disrupt technology, and even harm life if not managed." He noticed the panic in some citizens, though most moved with cautious composure, trusting the city's systems to handle it. Lyra gestured to him. "We must act quickly. Some structures cannot withstand the storm. Others require manual adjustment. You will help if you are willing to trust your instincts." Now was no different. They moved toward a platform that hovered above the lower streets, its mechanisms visibly straining under the storm's energy. Technicians worked frantically, adjusting panels and tuning emitters. Lyra coordinated the efforts with precise gestures and subtle energy pulses. Ethan observed for a moment, learning the rhythm. Then he stepped forward, noticing a malfunctioning stabilizer that could topple the platform if left unchecked. "Here," he said, pointing. "If you redirect the energy flow through these conduits, it may relieve the pressure." Ethan crouched, adjusting the conduits with his hands, feeling the vibration of the storm through the material. Sparks danced around him and his heart raced. Yet for the first time he felt completely alive, connected to this alien city and its people in a way he had never imagined. The platform stabilized. Ethan exhaled, but there was no time to celebrate. The storm shifted, moving faster, striking another area where a large crowd had gathered. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "We must evacuate them. You will lead." "Follow me," he called, his voice steady. He guided the citizens towards safety, pointing out paths, signaling pauses when energy pulses came too close. Some hesitated, unsure of human directions, but Ethan adjusted quickly, using clear gestures and voice cues. Slowly they moved, weaving between the pulsing energy and the buildings. Lyra followed closely, coordinating from a distance, using her influence to clear obstacles and calm those who panicked. Ethan noticed how the citizens responded to her authority, yet also to his decisiveness. Together, they became a team, human and alien, instinct and experience blending to manage the crisis. Hours passed. The storm raged, moving unpredictably across the city. Ethan climbed, adjusted, ran, and guided, constantly observing patterns, testing small solutions, and improvising when necessary. He noticed the alien technology could not fully control the storm. Only human improvisation seemed to stabilize critical areas quickly. Lyra watched him with quiet approval, rarely intervening, trusting his instincts. At one point, a section of the city's energy grid faltered, threatening to plunge an entire district into darkness and panic. Ethan sprinted, examining the conduits, and realized that a series of human-engineered adjustments could stabilize the flow temporarily. Sweat poured down his face as he worked, sparks flying around him. Finally, with a deep pull and careful connection, the grid hummed steadily again. The citizens cheered, though Ethan barely noticed, focused entirely on the next challenge. As the storm began to pass, Ethan felt his exhaustion catching up with him. Every muscle ached, every sense was on high alert, but the city remained standing. Lyra approached him, her expression calm but intense. "You have done more than any human could have expected," she said. "Your actions saved lives and structures alike. You think of solutions differently. You improvise where others rely solely on systems. That is why humans endure." That is precisely it. Courage and action combined with observation. That is what separates those who survive from those who perish. You have shown spirit. And for the first time he felt that humanity's spirit was part of that resilience. The council approached, observing the aftermath. Their expressions were unreadable at first, then slowly, one by one, they acknowledged Ethan. Not with words, but with gestures, pulses of light, and subtle nods. Ethan realized he had earned their respect, not as a visitor but as someone whose actions mattered. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, a rare gesture of approval. "You have done well today. Remember this: observation, understanding, and courage are each valuable alone, but together they can change outcomes beyond what anyone imagines. You have contributed in ways that may shape our city for years." He had only acted because it was necessary. And now, in this alien city, he understood something fundamental. Humanity's strength lay not in size, technology, or experience, but in the ability to act, adapt, and endure. The storm fully passed by evening, leaving the city bathed in the soft glow of its twin suns. Citizens began to emerge from shelters, repairing small damages and returning to their routines. Ethan walked beside Lyra through the recovering plaza, noticing how naturally she moved among her people, commanding respect without force. "Tomorrow, the council will convene again," she said. "But today has proven something important. You are capable of more than you imagine. Humanity is not weak, not small, not insignificant. We have seen that today. Or am I always going to be different?" The alien princess had recognized his efforts, yes, but more than that, she had acknowledged humanity itself. In a universe full of beings far older and more advanced, humans had value. Humans had spirit. As night fell, they returned to the platform where they had first met. Ethan sat beside Lyra once more, the stars above twinkling in a silent display. He thought of Earth, of his home, and realized that humans were not merely visitors in the galaxy. They were participants, capable of influence, action, and change. Lyra's gaze met his. "You have learned today that action matters, that courage matters, and that humans possess qualities others may underestimate. Never forget this. Humanity has potential you are only beginning to understand." And as he looked beside him at Lyra, calm, intelligent, and unshakable, Ethan knew that the future would demand more of him. Challenges greater than storms, conflicts deeper than disagreements, tests of ingenuity and courage beyond imagination. But he also knew that humans could rise to meet them. The stars shone brightly above, the city pulsed with life below, and Ethan, human and small yet significant, felt the first true sense of belonging in a galaxy that was larger, stranger, and more wondrous than he had ever dared to dream. The morning arrived with a calm that felt almost fragile after the storm of yesterday. Ethan stepped onto the plaza with Lyra, noting how the city had returned to its usual rhythm. Merchants arranged their goods, citizens moved with quiet purpose, and the glowing light of the towers reflected softly off the smooth surfaces. Yet, despite the apparent normalcy, Ethan sensed a tension beneath it all. The council had convened, and today he would be part of it, not as a guest but as an acknowledged participant. Lyra led him through the winding streets, greeting citizens with subtle gestures, her presence commanding respect and attention. Ethan noticed the difference now. Yesterday he had been an observer and a helper. Today others looked at him with curiosity, some with admiration. Word had spread of his actions during the storm, and humans had gained recognition in a city that had once seen them as small, distant beings. They arrived at the council chamber, a magnificent space that seemed suspended between floors, with walls of shifting light that displayed symbols, maps, and data Ethan could not decipher. The council members were already assembled, their expressions focused. As Lyra guided him to a place beside her, Ethan realized the weight of the moment. "You will speak if necessary," Lyra whispered, her eyes steady on his. "But observe first. Today, your perspective may shape the decisions of many." He realized that, while he could not understand the language or technology fully, the logic of human problem-solving could apply here. One council member raised a concern. A neighboring system had requested a trade agreement that could strain resources and destabilize certain districts. The discussion grew tense, voices overlapping, energy pulses flickering between members. Lyra looked at Ethan, a faint challenge in her gaze. She trusted him to act if needed. Ethan took a deep breath. "If I may," he said, keeping his voice calm, "perhaps there is a way to divide the resources incrementally. Start with small exchanges, monitor the outcomes, and adjust plans before committing fully. That way, no district suffers and trust can grow between systems." Slowly, one by one, nods of agreement appeared, and a compromise was reached that satisfied all parties. Ethan exhaled quietly. He had helped prevent a potential conflict, not with authority or power, but with perspective and reasoning. Lyra's faint smile reassured him. "You see," she said, "human thought is often underestimated. Yet it can provide clarity where experience alone fails." Everywhere he looked, he saw advanced technology, intricate social systems, and beings who had perfected cooperation over centuries. Yet he also noticed something vital. Despite all their advancement, they valued insight, adaptability, and courage, the very traits humanity had demonstrated. At one point, Lyra stopped near a laboratory where young scientists struggled to stabilize an experimental energy source. The device pulsed irregularly, threatening to overload. Ethan stepped forward instinctively. Drawing on his experience from the storm, he suggested rerouting a minor energy conduit and adjusting the sequence of pulses. The young aliens hesitated, unsure, but he demonstrated quickly and clearly. The device stabilized, humming steadily. The scientists' faces lit with relief and excitement, and Ethan felt the same satisfaction he had felt during the storm. "You see," Lyra said softly, "humans can contribute not only through survival but through innovation. Your perspective is rare." Citizens gathered, curious and respectful. Lyra led him to a platform at the center of the plaza. The twin suns above bathed them in warm light. The council acknowledged Ethan with gestures and pulses of energy, symbolizing acceptance and respect. He realized this was more than personal recognition. It was humanity itself being honored. Lyra addressed the crowd, her voice carrying effortlessly. "Today, we recognize the efforts of a visitor from a distant world. He has demonstrated courage, insight, and ingenuity. Humanity has shown us qualities we value: perspective, spirit, and the will to act when necessary." He stepped forward, speaking carefully. "I am honored, but I cannot take all credit. The city, its people, and Princess Lyra guided me. Humanity has much to learn from you as well. That is why we welcome you and humanity among us. Not by strength, not by dominance, but by thought, courage, and adaptability. That is the essence of humanity. You have earned a place here, not as a stranger but as a trusted partner." He realized that this moment was more than a personal achievement. Humanity had arrived on a distant world, not as conquerors, not as invaders, but as beings capable of cooperation, insight, and ingenuity. "I thank you," he said softly, "for trusting me, for showing me the city, for letting me be part of this. Trust is earned, not given lightly. You have earned it. Remember, the universe is vast, full of challenges and wonders, but humanity has the strength to rise, adapt, and inspire. You have demonstrated that today." Here, among beings far older and more advanced, he realized that humanity's greatest strength lay not in technology or size, but in spirit, the courage to act, the ability to adapt, and the ingenuity to find solutions when none seemed possible. The stars began to twinkle above the city, signaling the approach of night. Citizens returned to their homes and workshops, yet the energy of the day lingered. Ethan and Lyra sat together on the raised platform where they had first met. The wind carried a soft hum, the city pulsed with gentle light, and the universe seemed vast, mysterious, and full of potential. "You have seen today," Lyra said, her gaze steady, "that humans are more than they often believe. You act with thought, courage, and creativity. These qualities will serve your people well as you journey among the stars. Remember this feeling, this lesson. It will guide you and those who follow." Lyra turned to him, her expression calm and unyielding. "Tomorrow, there will be more to learn, more to see, and perhaps more challenges. But today, you have done what few could. You have shown that humans are not merely visitors. They are capable, resilient, and worthy of trust." The universe was vast, full of unknown civilizations and challenges, but humanity had a place within it. They had the ingenuity to survive, the courage to act, and the spirit to inspire. And as he sat beside Lyra, watching the city glow beneath the stars, Ethan understood something deeper than recognition or honor. Humanity had arrived, not as a small, distant species, but as participants in a greater story. A story of exploration, understanding, and connection across worlds. He realized that the galaxy would continue to test them, challenge them, and push them to their limits. Yet humanity, with all its flaws, determination, and ingenuity, would endure. And in that endurance lay triumph, the essence of HFY, the reason why humans had always survived, and the promise of what was yet to come. Ethan exhaled, feeling a rare sense of peace. He had come to study a world far from home, but he had discovered more than architecture or technology. He had discovered that humanity, small and imperfect as it might be, could shine brightly, even among the stars. Beside him, Lyra watched him with a quiet pride. Together, human and alien, they had faced the storm, navigated conflict, and shown the value of perspective, courage, and ingenuity. And in that partnership, Ethan saw a glimpse of the future, a galaxy where humans were not only survivors but contributors, innovators, and allies. The plaza shimmered beneath the twin moons, the city alive and vibrant. And Ethan, a human among the stars, finally understood that he had not only found a place to sit beside the alien princess, but a place for humanity in a universe that had once seemed too vast, too strange, and too challenging. And in that place, among the glow of the city and the stars above, Ethan felt the first true sense of belonging in a galaxy full of endless possibilities.